All right, let's dive into 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. We've got all our notes and highlights here ready to go. We're going to extract the most valuable ideas from this book on startups and innovation. One of the most surprising things Thiel says is that monopolies aren't always a bad thing. Yeah, we're going to unpack that for sure. But first, a little context. Thiel, he's not just some academic, He co-founded PayPal and shaped the venture capital world with Founders Fund. And he was involved with SpaceX and Palantir. So when he talks about building groundbreaking companies, he knows what he's talking about.
It's so interesting how Thiel frames this idea of going from 0 to 1. Imagine a bakery opens up and there's 10 other bakeries on the same block, all competing for the same customers. They're all kind of offering the same things. That's the 1-to-N approach, just scaling what already exists. But now imagine someone invents a brand new dessert, something totally unique. It's mind-blowingly delicious. It creates a whole new market that's 0 to 1. Which bakery do you think has a better chance of becoming wildly successful?
Yeah, that brand new dessert, everyone would want to try it. And that's what's so cool about this concept. It's not just about starting companies, it's about innovating within your company, or even just approaching your personal goals with that 0 to 1 mindset. And you know the story of PayPal, it's a great example of this. So they actually started out trying to beam money to each other.
Yeah.
Using Palm Pilots.
Can you imagine?
I know, right?
What's really key here is their adaptability. That Palm Pilot idea, well, it totally flopped, but they were smart. They saw the potential of online payments, especially with eBay growing like crazy. So they pivoted. They turned a potential failure into a massive success story.
Oh, and get this. Thiel starts this fellowship where he pays young people not to go to college. He's basically saying, skip the traditional path and build something amazing instead.
Thiel is definitely known for his contrarian thinking. He's questioning this assumption that you need a college degree to be successful. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's betting on action over credentials. Makes you wonder, right? Have you ever learned more by doing something than by just reading about it? I know I have.
There's also this almost mythical element to the book. Thiel talks about these secret meetings with Elon Musk and other tech visionaries coming together to discuss these really groundbreaking ideas that were just too radical to be shared publicly.
I think that just highlights Thiel's really strategic use of secrecy. It's not about being shady or anything. It's more about creating a safe space to nurture these really disruptive ideas. Imagine having an idea so bold that you're almost afraid to share it. Thiel is really showing us how valuable it can be to protect those game-changing ideas until they're ready to be shared with the world.
And that leads us to the founding of Palantir. This company has become a major player in data analysis, but it's always been shrouded in secrecy.
Palantir is a perfect example of Thiel actually putting his ideas into practice. It's this really fascinating intersection of technology and data, and it also raises this really important question about considering the implications of what we build.
Okay, here comes one of the most controversial ideas in the book: monopolies. Thiel actually says that monopolies can be a good thing, but only under certain circumstances.
He sees monopolies that come about from true innovation as drivers of progress. They're not about squashing the competition, it's about creating entirely new markets and improving the quality, which can actually end up benefiting consumers.
Think about Amazon. They started by selling books online and then expanded to basically offer everything. They totally dominate e-commerce. But they've also driven innovation in other areas, like logistics and delivery, and even cloud computing with Amazon Web Services.
And Google, right? They started as just a simple search engine, and now they're this giant in search, advertising, mobile operating systems, everything. But they've also pushed the boundaries with things like Google Maps and Gmail, and even self-driving cars.
So it's not about monopolies being inherently good or bad. It's more nuanced than that. It's about recognizing that in the right situation, they can drive progress and actually benefit everyone. But that also raises some tough questions. How do we make sure these good monopolies don't become harmful? That's a conversation we need to have. But first, remember that bakery analogy. Thiel takes it a step further and introduces this idea of the fallacy of competition. Sometimes we're so busy battling it out in these crowded markets that we completely miss opportunities to create entirely new ones. It's like we're trying to be the best bakery on the block, when we could be out there inventing a totally new kind of dessert.
He actually uses this term, blue ocean, to describe creating a brand new market space, where you're not even competing with anyone, you're creating something totally unique. So it makes you think, are there areas in your life or your work where you might be stuck in this unnecessary competition? Could you maybe create a blue ocean instead?
I'm going to explore that more a little bit later, but first, I want to touch on another key theme. Thiel's emphasis on secrecy.
It's not about being sneaky or anything like that. It's about protecting your ideas, those valuable ideas, until they're ready to be shared. Think of it like a chef perfecting a recipe in their kitchen. Before they share it with the world, they need time to experiment, to refine, and make sure it's absolutely perfect.
And that's exactly what Thiel is advocating for in the world of innovation. Protect your ideas, nurture them, and when the time is right, unleash them onto the world. There's so much to unpack here. We've really just scratched the surface of 0 to 1, but already we're seeing how Thiel's ideas challenge conventional wisdom and force us to think differently about innovation and competition and how we build the future. Stick with us. We've got so much more to explore in this deep dive.
Yeah, that idea of protecting your ideas, it's really interesting, especially now, right? It feels like there's so much pressure to share everything all the time.
It's true. You're constantly hearing about building your personal brand and putting yourself out there, and it can make you feel like you're falling behind if you're not constantly sharing.
Right, but like Thiel says, that constant need for validation can actually get in the way of real innovation. It's almost like we're so focused on likes and retweets that we forget about, taking the time for quiet thinking and deep work.
Makes me think of that saying, don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel.
Yeah.
We're always seeing the finished product, the polished presentation, not the messy process that it took to get there.
Totally. And that's what Thiel's encouraging us to embrace, that messy process, the quiet incubation period, the time and space to really develop our ideas fully before we share them with everyone.
So let's shift gears for a minute and talk about another big idea from the book, distribution. Now, you might think distribution is just about logistics, getting your product out there. But Thiel says it's actually much more strategic than that.
He makes this distinction between different types of distribution. There's the traditional way, which is like pushing your product out to the mass market, hoping to reach as many people as possible. But Thiel thinks that a more targeted approach can be way more effective, especially for startups.
He talks about finding your niche market, those early adopters who really get your product and are excited about it. It's about finding the right people for your message, people who will use your product but also become your biggest supporters.
Think of it like planting a seed. You wouldn't just throw seeds all over a field randomly. You'd pick the best spot, the right soil, to give those seeds the best chance to grow.
It's like that saying, you can't be everything to everyone. So instead of trying to please everyone, you focus on finding your people, the ones who really connect with your vision.
And those early adopters are so important. They give you really valuable feedback, help you refine your product, and they become your evangelists, spreading the word and helping you grow.
And that brings us to timing. You know the saying, timing is everything. Well, Thiel says it's especially true for startups.
He uses this really cool analogy of surfing. He says that entrepreneurs have to be like surfers. They need to spot the waves. Those moments when an idea or technology is ready to be disrupted.
If you catch the wave at the right time, you can ride it all the way to success. But if you miss it, or you try to fight against the current, you're going to have a much harder time.
It's about being in tune with culture and technology and the market, being able to see trends and jump on opportunities when they come up.
And that often means being willing to challenge the way things are usually done, to bet on those ideas that other people might think are too risky.
Like Thiel himself. Remember that Thiel Fellowship, paying young people to not go to college. That was a radical idea at the time, going against everything people thought you were supposed to do to be successful.
It takes a lot of courage to go against the grain like that,
Yeah.
to trust your gut, even when everyone else is doubting you. But that's where the biggest breakthroughs happen.
Totally. And that leads us to another important thing that Thiel talks about, building a really strong team.
He says, no one does great things alone. You need to surround yourself with talented people who are dedicated and believe in your vision.
And it's not just about finding people with the right skills. It's about creating a culture where people can do their best work, where everyone feels valued and respected.
He talks about clear communication and open feedback, and having a shared purpose. It's about building a team that's greater than the sum of its parts.
And it's a process, Building a great team isn't a one-time thing. It takes constant work and attention.
So now let's talk about something that people might not be so comfortable with. Sales. I know for some of us, the word sales makes us think of, those pushy salespeople who are just trying to force you to buy something?
Yeah, Thiel acknowledges that. But he says that sales is a crucial part of any successful business.
He talks about the difference between different approaches to sales, like the hard sell, which can feel really manipulative, versus a more customer-focused approach.
He talks about the importance of building relationships and really understanding what your customer needs and offering them solutions that actually help them.
It's about educating people, not just closing a deal.
And here's where Thiel challenges another common assumption. He says the best salespeople aren't always the outgoing, charismatic types.
Yeah, he actually thinks introverts can be amazing at sales because they're often better listeners and they're more thoughtful in how they approach things.
It's all about understanding your customer and building trust and offering solutions that really meet their needs.
And speaking of challenging assumptions, let's talk about Thiel's views on competition. In the traditional business world, competition is seen as the engine of innovation. It's all about being the best and beating your competitors and winning market share.
But Thiel offers a completely different perspective. He says that this obsession with competition can actually hold us back.
He says that competition can lead to a race to the bottom, where companies are so focused on undercutting each other on price that they end up sacrificing quality and innovation.
It becomes this constant battle to outdo each other, instead of focusing on creating something truly new and valuable.
And this is where Thiel introduces one of his most radical ideas, the concept of good monopolies. Now, I know that sounds a little strange.
It does work.
But what Thiel is saying is that monopolies that come from genuine innovation, from creating something so amazing that it takes over the market, those monopolies can actually be good for the consumer in the long run.
Think about Google or Amazon. They've become so dominant in their areas because they've created products and services that are just better than anything else out there.
And that dominance has given them the resources to invest heavily in research and development, pushing the boundaries of innovation, and bringing us things like self-driving cars and voice assistants.
Of course, there are always concerns about monopolies, stifling competition, and getting complacent. But Thiel's argument is that the real danger comes from government intervention. That tries to stop monopolies from forming in the first place.
He thinks that by trying to prevent monopolies, we actually prevent the kind of groundbreaking companies that could really change things.
It's a really thought-provoking argument, and it makes us reconsider what we think about competition and the role of monopolies. Absolutely, and before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one more important theme from 0 to 1, the power of secrets.
Thiel says that even though we live in a world where there's so much information, there are still secrets out there, valuable insights that are waiting to be discovered.
And these secrets aren't necessarily hidden away in some vault. They're often right in front of us. We just overlook them because they don't fit with what we already believe.
It's like that saying, the best place to hide a tree is in a forest. Sometimes the most valuable things are right there. We just aren't seeing them.
Exactly. Thiel is encouraging us to be more curious, to question what we think we know, and to look for patterns and connections that other people might miss.
It's about being a contrarian thinker, someone who isn't afraid to challenge the status quo and search for the truth, even if it's in an unexpected place.
And it's not just about being intellectually curious, it's about having the courage to actually do something with what you learn, to turn those insights into something real, something that can make a difference in the world.
It's about being a builder, an innovator, a creator, taking those secrets and using them to benefit others, to push the limits of what's possible and leave a lasting impact. That's actually a perfect transition to the final part of our deep dive, where we're going to talk about how Thiel's ideas can inspire us to create our own 0 to 1 moments.
You know, one of the biggest takeaways for me is this idea of definite optimism that Thiel keeps coming back to.
I'm right there with you. It's more than just hoping for a better future, right?
Yeah.
It's about having this clear vision and a plan to make it happen.
Exactly. Thiel uses the example of SpaceX and their mission to colonize Mars, which is this crazy, ambitious goal, like something out of science fiction.
But they're going for it.
They're approaching it with so much purpose and determination.
Like they're saying, we're not just going to wait around for the future, we're going to make it happen.
And that's a really powerful message for everyone. It's not just about space travel. It's about bringing that same definite optimism to our own goals, whether it's starting a company or writing a book or just making a difference in our community.
I love how Thiel compares it to what he calls indefinite optimism, which is basically just hoping things will get better, but without actually doing anything, like hoping to win the lottery without even buying a ticket.
Exactly. Definite optimism is about taking charge, setting those big goals, and taking action to make them happen.
And that ties into another key theme, building the future. Thiel isn't just talking about making things a little bit better. He wants those game-changing ideas, The ones that create entire industries and change the world.
He wants us to dream big and not be scared to chase those ideas that seem impossible, to ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want? And then go build it.
He sees technology as a big part of this. But not just any technology. He wants technology that solves problems and makes things better for everyone.
He talks about the need for breakthrough technologies, innovations that unlock all these new possibilities.
Like, think about the internet. When it first came out, no one could have imagined how much it would change everything.
It's completely changed how we connect with each other, how we learn, how we work, how we live.
And Thiel believes those kinds of breakthroughs are still out there.
Maybe they're hidden in plain sight, or maybe they need us to think in a completely different way.
So if you're feeling inspired and want to go out and create something truly amazing, Thiel's got some advice.
He talks about starting small, focusing on a specific market, and building that strong team we talked about.
And being able to adapt and learn from your mistakes. Because the road to success is never a straight line.
He reminds us that there will be challenges and setbacks, but the important thing is to keep going. Stay focused on your goals and never give up.
And one of the most important things he says is to question everything. Don't just accept things the way they are. Be willing to challenge those assumptions.
Ask yourself, why is it done this way? Could there be a better way?
That willingness to question and to challenge, that's at the heart of 0 to 1.
And it's a mindset we can all benefit from, no matter what we do or what our goals are.
There's a quote from the book that really stuck with me. Thiel says, "The best way to predict the future is to create it."
Wow, that's powerful. It reminds us that we're not just along for the ride, we can shape the future. We have the power to make it into something incredible.
So as you go forward, with all these insights from 0 to 1, remember that you have the power to create.
Let your imagination run wild and start building that future you want to see.
That's it for our deep dive into 0 to 1. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
And maybe even a little challenging.
Remember, the power to create something truly amazing is within each of us. So go out there and make your mark on the world. Until next time.